Hello? Okay. Yeah. Okay, welcome back everybody. I hope you've done your homework from last lesson. You guys remember like arrays and array lists and 2D arrays? I know it's kind of complicated, but yeah. Hopefully you guys had some time to review. So today, okay, let me just share the slides first. Uh, yeah, so in case you forgot, this is our 6th lesson. So today, like, our lesson plan is actually to like I'm gonna give you like everybody like some problems from my textbook, since we're sort of like running like low on like the curriculum we can teach. So I just wanted everyone to have like more practice, because I don't exactly know like how much everyone's absorbed throughout this whole entire course. So um I just wanted to like just start off by like listing the important concepts so everyone can like, I guess, sort of try and remember what they've learned, what you've learned so far. So I guess I'll read it off. So in like lesson 2, we learn about classes, objects, attributes, methods, and constructors. So these are things that like make up your entire program. It's like an object-oriented based language, Java. So in case you guys forgot, like objects are sort of like a noun, like you describe using attributes and methods, which are like your adjectives and verbs. And constructors are used to like create your object. Does anybody have any questions, or do you not understand any of the terms I just listed? Like, you can just like private message it to me. Like, I just want to, I don't, I just want to like sort of like know like on a scale of 1 to 5, like how comfortable are you with the topics I just mentioned? You can just like private message me in the chat. Okay. Just on like on a scale of 1 to 5, I just kind of like want to know where everybody is so I can like just know how much time I have to spend on the multiple choice questions. Like, it's just a number. Like, it doesn't even have to be like, just I just want some information. Uh, no one's gonna see this. Like, this is just like a sort of just like some information for me, so I can like sort of know like how um, I only have one response so far. Like, um, okay, I mean, if you don't feel comfortable, I'll just like move along, and you can just like tell me whenever you um, don't understand something, because I feel like these are the most basic things you should understand. So I kind of expect everyone to be around like a 4 or 5 range. So yeah, let me just share my screen again. And in lesson 3, we learned about conditional statements. So conditional statements are like if else and else if. Like, basically, if you fulfill one condition, you execute this command, and if you don't fulfill that statement, you execute another command. Kind of like what, like, you have to fulfill a condition, right? That's why they're called conditional statements. And we also learned about loops. So the two kinds of loops we learned about were like for loops and while loops. And yeah, if you feel comfortable, please in the chat just tell me like on a scale of 1 to 5 how comfortable you're with these two topics. And okay, I'll just move on. And in I think the 5th lesson, like last lesson, we learned about arrays, 2D arrays, and array lists. And I feel like this should be like most, I guess, fresh in you guys' memories. So I mean, if you guys had a chance to review, that'd be great, because we have some questions on that as well today. Um, yeah, so just give me three numbers and I can just kind of like tell like where the class is in terms of how well we understand everything. Um, yeah, or just give me an overall number. It's fine. Like, just on a scale of 1 to 5, how comfortable do you feel with like all of these topics? Um, okay, 3.8. Very nice answer. Yeah, like Jing Jing and Adam and Carolyn, Dora, like you could just like give me a number, like if it's just like a 3, that'd be fine. Like I guess I just don't want anyone to feel like they don't know anything right now, because then I can like focus more on like explaining the problems rather than like have you guys do it, right? Okay. Um Adam and Carolyn, like um yeah. If you guys just type something in the chat, that'd be great. I know you two have been pretty silent for most of the course, but it's been 6 lessons, right? This is a very friendly environment here. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I see most of us are around like 3 to 4 range, so yeah, I mean 2 to 4 range, so yeah, I think I mean I'm gonna start off with some easier questions and then we'll progress into like some harder questions. So yeah. So yeah, we're gonna start with some multiple choice questions like right now. These first few are gonna focus on like what we learned in lesson 2. So they're gonna be on like classes, object attributes, and methods and constructors. I think it's like 2 questions. So yeah. So yeah, this is the first one. Just um, if you know the answer, just type it in chat, or if you feel comfortable, you can also just blur it out. And if there's no volunteers, I guess I'll just have to call on somebody because yeah, I want everyone to be thinking rather than just me like showing what to do. So I'll just read the question as well. So the relationship between a class and an object can be described as A, the terms class and object mean the same thing. B, a class is a program while an object is data. C, a class is the blueprint for an object and objects are instantiated from it. D, an object is the blueprint for a class and classes are instantiated from it. And E, a class can be written by anyone, but Java provides all objects. So this should be a pretty simple question if you've been listening to what I've been saying in my lessons about like how an object relates to a class. So I'll just give everyone like 1 minute, and it'd be best if everyone could just like give their answer in the chat. Like a guess is fine. It's okay if you're wrong. We're all wrong like some time during our lives, so just don't be afraid to answer. Yeah. Um, Let me just see. I have one answer so far. Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't. It's not shared anymore, right? Okay. Okay, let me first give everyone the link so you can just. Yeah, the link for the presentations in the chat, so if you can open it, you can access all the questions yourself. Um, Yeah, the Zoom's kind of annoying because I can't access chat when I'm sharing screen. So, yeah, I guess I'll share the screen again. Um, yeah, I'll just give everyone an additional minute because I kind of messed up with the sharing screen. Like, I feel like there's like at least 3 answers that are like easily like eliminatable. Like you can eliminate them like pretty easily. Um, yeah, so just please type your answer in the chat. It'll just be one click. You don't have to do much thinking. Okay, so and yeah, for the newcomers, we're just doing like some questions today for our class to review a bit on the concepts we're learning. And we're on like the first multiple choice questions, so if you have an answer, just please type it in the chat. Like private message if you're not comfortable sharing with everybody. So yeah. Okay, I'll just call on somebody because we're not getting like that many answers. Okay, Lucas, what do you think the answer is? And yeah, I only see one person on the slides right now, so if you can, everyone could like just hop on the slides, it'd be much more efficient for this. Um, yeah, it's in the chat, the link. I'll post it again for the newcomers. Um, yeah, Lucas, what do you think the answer to this first question is?
I think C. I might be wrong.
Yeah, that is correct. Why didn't you type it in the chat? Like, it's okay. I only got one answer. See, like, if you don't type anything in the chat, I'm gonna have to call your name because they don't think you're not participating. Yeah. So I'll just explain it. So, remember when I said like the relationship between a class and an object is like a class is a generalization of all objects. So, if you have something like a car, right? An object would be like a type of car, right? Like a Toyota or a Nissan. So like um, the first um, choice of like the terms class and object mean the same thing. That is completely wrong. A class is a program, while an object is data. That is also wrong. And E, a class can be written by anyone, but Java provides all object is also doesn't make any sense, right? So we're left with C and D, where a class is a blueprint for an object, and objects are instantiated from it. And D, an object is the blueprint for a class, and classes are instantiated from it. Well, you see, like they're kind of just like reverses of each other, right? But C is correct because an object is a subset of a class. So when we're talking about blueprint, we're talking about like a generalization. So a class is a blueprint of an object is correct, and objects are instantiated from it, or is basically you create objects from a class, right? So that's the correct um, way of describing it. Does anybody have any questions for this first question? Okay, then we'll move on. I hope everyone's following along because this is pretty important. Um, and I still see, yeah, okay. So this is the second question. So here we have some code. We have, oops, we have two attributes. One of them is a name, one of them is a GPA. We have this constructor, and you guys remember a constructor takes the name of the class is student, and you initialize two variables, the two attributes. These are two fields. So the question is, given the following fields in constructor, which of the following could be used to instantiate a new student object called Sam? So Sam is the name of the object. So this question kind of like tests you guys' like memory of like what is the syntax when we construct an object. Like, do you remember like what goes on the left side and what goes on the right side? Um, yeah, and same thing, same. Just type your answers in the chat, and yeah, and it's okay if you get it wrong, because if I can like get some wrong answers, I can also like explain why exactly they're wrong, or like else I can't tell exactly like if everyone getting it right or is everyone getting it wrong. Like, I wouldn't know, you know. Yeah, I'll give another minute for this one. So yeah. I have two answers so far, and it's coming from the same people. So I hope that the 6 or 7 others can please say something. Or else I'm gonna have to call on your name. I'm sorry, but yeah. Okay. Give it another 30 seconds, and um, it's okay to be wrong, because I might have missed some stuff as well when I'm teaching this course. So if we can like go over these things um, when answering the questions, we can also learn more stuff. So yeah. Okay, so Adam, what do you think is the answer to this question? Okay, okay? Carolyn, would you want to help him out? Megan, do you have an answer to this question? Okay, then fine. I'll just call him. Okay, Lucas. Okay, could you just say your answer then?
I think C.
Why do you think it was C?
Cause like the student names, student Sam, and like new student thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good explanation. It's kind of just like um, trying to test your memory, right? So yeah, C is the right answer. So I got some B answers. So if you guys remember when we like create a new object, we always have to state the class name. So the class name in this scenario is student because our constructor is called student. So that's kind of like how we can tell what the class name is called. So we put the class name first, then we give our object a name, so that's Sam. So it's kind of similar in B, but you just forgot the class name. And everyone remembers this part. We start with new. Yeah, you create the object by stating new. And this is the constructor part. So if we focus on the constructor part, actually, we see that the constructor has two arguments. So when we're creating an object, we have to give values to those two arguments. So B wouldn't work because our constructor has no arguments. but we declared our constructor to have 2 arguments in our code. So C would be correct because it has 2 arguments. You have a name, so you give the name value of Sam Smith, and you give the GPA a value of 3.5. So yeah, maybe I didn't emphasize this enough in like when I taught constructors, but basically when you're calling or creating the object, in the right side you call this constructor, and the number of elements here has to match the number of elements you had when you declared the constructor here. And yeah, and there's just some problems with the other answers as well. This one, the whole like it's all just like messed up, right? New should never be first. This was also wrong. And A, yeah, same thing, doesn't have these 2 values. Yeah. And these 2 values can be anything. Like just give it a name value and give it a like GPA value. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions on this one? Okay, I'll move on. So this is our third question. So this one is, we're moving on to conditionals. This one should be a pretty simple one. Just follow through the code and yeah, just same thing. Type in the chat what you think the answer is. This one's kind of more of a math one. So if you guys remember, this percent symbol means modulo or like remainder. So if you do like 14 or remainder 5, that would be 4, right? Because 10 is divisible by 5, but then 14 is another 4. So the answer would be 4 for the remainder. Yeah, so if you have your answer in mind, just please type it in chat. Yeah, if you don't know, just say you don't know because yeah, or you can just guess because I don't want to like waste everyone's time because I don't know if everyone's like stumped on the question or they're just actually trying to do this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Um, Jing Jing, would you like to explain how you got your answer?
Okay. Well, num1 is 9, num2 is 5. So if num1 is greater than num2, well, it is. So then you print 9 plus 5 and like and then modulo 5 because that's num2. So that would be 4.
Yeah.
And then you ignore the else because the if was true.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of already gave a big hint for this one by already doing the operation, but yeah, that's how you do it. So we have like 2 integer variables here, and this is like the second part of our code. It's a whole like just whole block of code. So if we're saying that the first number is greater than the second number, then we do this. But if this is not true, then we do this, right? So in this case, 9 is greater than 5. We add them together in this, just 14, and then we do 14 modulo 5, which is finding the remainder, and we get 4. Yeah. Yeah. And like just basically for all these questions, if you have any questions, just like type them in the chat. So yeah, Lucas, do you understand this one now? Like how I just explained it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Great. Move on then. So this next one is on Boolean operators. This is kind of like a small thing we touched on, I believe, in lesson 3. But yeah, hope this one is still familiar in everyone's minds. So we have 3 Boolean variables. X is true, Y is false, and Z is true. And this one just asks, which of the following evaluates to true? And remember, this means and, this means or, and this exclamation mark is not. So it's kind of just like the reverse. So if it's like not true, then it's false. This one I think requires a bit more time, but it's kind of just like, you know, going through all the answers and trying to determine which one is actually, what is it? Yeah, evaluates the true. Yeah, and if you don't know, just please type in the chat. I don't want to like um, try and guess where everyone is along the way. Yeah. Um, JC, do you have any clue how to do this one?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Um, Jingjing, would you like to explain your answer?
Oh, okay. I guess the X, Y, and Z, true, false, true, that's kind of self-explanatory. So it's not the first one because all 3 of them have to be true in order for that one to be true. The second one, it's either X and Y or Z and Y, which is both are true. Sorry, both are false. So that doesn't work out either. C, which was my answer, it's either like not X and Y. So basically X and Y are false, but if it's not false, then it'd be true. And then Z is also true. So it could be either of them, but this time it's both. And then I guess the rest of them I could explain if you want.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah, it's just
Okay.
basically I hope everyone remembers like just if you have the and means that both booleans have to be true for the whole thing to be true. And if it's an or, at least one of them have to be true for the whole thing to be true. So that's like kind of like just what you have to remember for these and or questions, and not is just the reverse. Right? So yeah, if you like went through the process that Jingjing went through, you would also like just arrive at C. I kind of just wanted everyone to like evaluate like each one and see like why it's true or false. Right? Okay, so let's move on to the 5th one. So now we're going to do something on loops. So this one has a while loop in it, and basically it asks you what is printed out as a result of executing the code segment. So this one's actually sort of more complex. Like if you have a paper, maybe you can write down like what occurs during the loop. So yeah, so you start with two variables. One is count, which is equal to 1 at the start, and one is value, which is equal to 31. And they're pretty much used in the while loop. So you guys remember how while loop works, right? So as long as this condition is satisfied, the stuff in here will also execute. If this is not satisfied, then you exit it and the code stops. Yeah, this one takes a bit more time. There's no like really shortcut to it. Yeah, time to math. Yeah. And I hope everyone can give this one a try. I'll have one person like explain their thinking process. Maybe like it doesn't have to be exactly correct. I just kind of like want to know how each one of you like trying to like approach the problem. Yeah. Dora, do you have any clue of what to do in this problem? Would anyone like to volunteer? Or Lucas, do you have what's your thinking process for this one? Yeah. Oh, okay. JC, would you like to explain your thinking process with this one? Yeah.
So I just did some math, I guess, and 31 minus 1 is 30, and 1 plus 3 is 4, and then 30 minus 4 is 26, and 20
I think you
4
skipped this.
plus 3 is 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I got, and so on and so forth, and then I got 9, but then 9 is less than 10, so it stopped the loop.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's basically how the while loop works. And that's the correct answer. 9 is the correct answer. Yeah. So basically in the while loop, you loop through the thing repeatedly. That's basically how a loop works, right? So since 31 is greater than 10 at the start, you do this, and you do this first function, value equals value minus count, and you do the second function. And when you go back, you see that if the new value, like 31 minus 1, so value is 30 now, but 30 is still greater than 10, right? So you do the whole thing again. So basically, you do the whole thing repeatedly until you get a value that's less than 10, and then you print out that value. And this value in this like problem was 9. So yeah. So we'll move on to the 6th question. This one's on a for loop. This is actually a nested for loop. So this one is actually kind of complicated. I'll give everyone like 2 minutes to try and solve it. It will help a lot if you guys could like write it on a paper, but if you guys remember like nested for loops, you have rows and columns. It's sort of like a 2D array, but the array is not defined here. It's just you're looping through something and looping through something in it. It's kind of how it works. Yeah, this one might be a bit complicated. I mean, if you did your homework from last lesson, you might know how to do it, but yeah. Is anyone able to get something from this one? Or not really? I think the most complicated part about this problem is this part. K is greater than J. This might be sort of confusing. Yeah, the math is a bit, yeah. I think it's not that much math here, but it's just more like, it's very like spinning, right? Like a lot of stuff, and you have to compare these two values. Like it's very all over the place, right? So yeah, I guess I'll just explain this one then, because so when you have a nested for loop, you go through this one once. Like the first time you go through this one, you go through this one completely. So in total, the outer loop is going to execute 10 times because you have j equals 0 and you have j is less than 10. And when you, this means increment by 1. So a j equals 0, j equals 1, j equals 2, right? So this statement is going to go 10 times, repeatedly 10 times. So when you do this thing 10 times, you're actually doing this thing 10 times as well. So, so the first time you go through j equals 0, so then k would be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, because the whole time k is greater than j, right? I know this is kind of confusing, but when you first start with j equals 0 and k equals 10, 10 is greater than 0, so you do k minus minus, that equals 9, and 9 is greater than 0, and then 8 is greater than 0, and then you get it? So like this thing will execute 10 times in the first loop of this. So you're going to print this star 10 times. Now in the second loop, j equals 1. Now 10 is greater than 1, and then we're going to do the loop. So 10 is greater than 1, we print out something. 9 is greater than 1, 8 is greater than 1, all the way to 1, but 1 is not greater than 1, right? So we're not going to do that loop like we did in the previous one. So instead, this go around, there's only going to be 9. Does everyone understand or no?
Yeah.
Okay, so you see how this is working, right? So in the first go around of this thing, we print out 10. In the second one, we print out 9. So you kind of see where this is going, right? So now when j equals 2, and we go here, k is only going to be greater than j 8 times because we're going to get to 2, but 2 is not greater than 2. So we're just going to stop the loop there. And the 1, we're just going to stop at 2. There's no 1. So there, we're only going to print 8 times. So when j equals 3, we're going to print 7. When j equals 4, we're going to print 6 times, right? So, like in math terms, what you're doing is you're printing 10 at the start, but then each time you're printing 1 less. So the whole equation would just be 10 plus 9 plus 8 plus 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. And when you add all that together, that'll be like your answer. That's how many stars you're going to print out. So if you do the math, you're going to get 55. So the answer is D. Yeah, this one really screws with your brain a lot. Like, you just got to remember that this thing is what you start with, but in the first go around, you do this whole thing. And then you repeat back here. You increment 1, so you do j equals 1. And then you do this whole thing again. And then this whole thing, when you do it, is also another thing, but you just got to remember that you do this once, and then you do this whole thing. You do this again, you do this whole thing. And since there's like 10 total times, you do this whole thing 10 times. I mean, you do this whole thing 10 times. But the number of times, the number of things you do in this is also like just, you don't know. Like you just got to execute it again. So, yeah. Yeah, so if you have time, just like revisit this problem and see if you can just like replicate what I just did. Yeah, I think that'll be the best way you guys can try and solve this one. Let's just move on to the 7th question. This one should be pretty straightforward. It's basically what we learned last lesson, and just kind of like a very simple problem to test your knowledge. So we have an integer that equals 3. We have an array. So if you guys remember arrays, we store values. We have 4 values in this array that are integers. So now there's this thing, this code that's repeated 2 times, and now it just wants you to print out what the total, like the integer total, the value of total after you execute these 2 things. I'll give everyone 1 minute for this one. I guess the only thing you have to remember for this one is what this means. Remember how we access an element of our array, like how we access it? Like this would be 0, index, 1, 2, 3. So what would this do? It looks like I have no answers in the chat. Lucas, do you know how to do this one? I guess you also have to remember what this thing is. Maybe this will like catch some people off guard. I think we talked about this though. Dora, do you have a thinking process for this one? No? Okay. Okay then. Yeah. Okay, I'll go through it then. So basically just have to look at this statement. So total, it starts with 3, right? And this basically means total equals total plus value. So this actually just means this. You're just giving this total a new value. So what we do here is we access, so you know that total equals 3, right? So here, this actually is replaced with 3. And when we access the 3, we get -2, because this is the third index. We access the third index, this is -2. So this becomes 3, like this basically becomes 3 is equal to 3 plus -2. Actually, sorry, this is not what it means. Total is equal to 3 plus -2. Like you replace this with 3. And this is your new total. So this evaluates to 1. So this new total is equal to 1. So now you do the whole thing again. So now total is equal to 1, right? So here, this would be equal to 1. And you do the exact same thing. So this would be, this value would be the first one. So this new total would be equal to the total right now, which is 1. You add this, which is 6. And you get 7. So yeah, so you print out this this second total element and you get 7. Yeah, so what was everyone stuck on with this one? Like Lucas, what part did you not understand about this one? Dora? Or wait, actually I think Jing Jing did it right. Yeah, D is the right answer for this one. Yeah. Okay, yeah. We don't have much time left, so I'm just gonna have to like go over the last 2 multiple choice questions really fast. So this next one, we're gonna do a question on iterating through an array. So I believe in the last lesson, we all learned about how we can access all of these elements using a for loop. And I think I explained this part pretty well. Just replace what this value is with what you get as the result, and then you can access whatever is here. And I hope everyone remembers what this means. Dot length. Yeah, I guess Jing Jing, would you just like to like talk about like how you're approaching this problem like at the start?
I'm not quite sure about this one.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Lucas, do you remember how to iterate through an array using a for loop?
No, not sure.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll just go over this one then. So you have this array of integer values, right? You have like 7, 9, 4, 1, 6, 3, 8, 5, right? These are the elements inside. So this is our for loop. We start with I equals 3. This is our starting index. Now we gotta figure out what this means. So remember, dot length means we find the size of the array. So this is 8 elements long. So values dot length would be equal to 8. And this means we add 2 every time we go through the loop. So in the first loop, I equals 3, we do this. In the second loop, I now equals 5. And we keep on going until I is greater than values.length. Because when it's less, we do the loop again, but when it's greater, we stop. So here we have the first thing, the first statement in the loop. When I equals 3, we do 3 minus 2, and that equals 1, right? So what is values 1? Like, yeah, values 1. Does anyone want to just say it?
I guess 9 for this one.
Yeah, it's 9. Yeah, so values 1 is equal to 9. So this is what you get, like this is what you print out in the first loop through. Now for the second one, we have I equals 5 now because we added 2. We added 2. So 5 is still less than 8, right? So we do this again. So now what is values 5 minus 2? So what is values 3? Index 3 of values. Okay, it's 1. I was expecting a response, but okay. Values 3 is 1. And then we do it again, because when we're looping, we do it until the condition is not fulfilled. So now, I equals 7. So now we do this function again, values of 7 minus 2, which is 5. And the fifth index would be 3. So far we printed out 9, 1, and 3. And now when we do the loop again, we get 7 plus 2. Well, now we get 9, but 9 is not less than 8. So the loop stops, and we don't do this anymore. So our answer would be what we printed out so far. So we printed out 9, 1, 3, so that'd be 913. So that would be what 913 would be our answer. Does anyone have any questions regarding this one? So I guess the key for this one is knowing what this means, knowing how to access the value, like what is the third index of values, or what is like the fifth index of values. You have to memorize like exactly which position this element is going to be. And I think everything else is pretty self-explanatory regarding like what a loop is, right? So, yeah. And yeah, I hope everyone can also study this question. I feel like the first 4 questions were kind of like basic knowledge, and I think the last, we still have one more question, but like the last like 5 are kind of like ones that require more thinking and some math related operations. So yeah, study more on the 5 through 9. These are more important. Yeah. So the 9th question, we have something that deals with array lists. I think in the last lesson, we talked about them. So array lists are basically like resizable arrays. So you can start off with an empty array list, and you can just add and remove elements. So This one's actually this is a trick question actually. I hope everyone can know what I mean by this one. The answer may be, yeah. I'll give everyone like 2 minutes on this one. We're kind of like nearing the end of our class. Okay. Maybe that was too big of a clue. Yeah. Yeah, maybe this question has stumped a few people here. Does anybody want to share the thinking process for this one? Or are you just gonna try and guess the answer based on what I said? Okay. Yeah, so the answer to this question is E. So you probably don't know what index out of bounds exception is, but for this question, just kind of like understand it as like something doesn't work in this program. So this is the type of error that occurs, but just kind of understand that something is wrong here. So we first declared this array list. It's called subjects, and it contains strings. So now we're just going to add elements, right? So we're going to add French. So the first subject is French, and it has index of 0. And then we add history, so that has an index of 1. So now we set the first index, which was previously history. Now we change it to English. So now our array list is at 0 we have French, and at 1 we have English. Now we add art. So art becomes our 2. And then we remove 1. So if you guys remember, we set the 1 to English, now we remove it. So now our array is French at 0 and art at 1 because we removed 1. So anything that's above it will shift down. So art is 1. So here's what the error is. Subjects.set to math. The problem is we only have 2 elements in our array right now. The second one will point to a third element, but we don't have a third element right now. So this is where the error is in this line of code. So this problem is also called index out of bounds because the index is out of bounds. Like we don't have a third element, so this index is out of bounds right now for us to access. We'd have to add another element so that we can access that third element, right? Yeah, so this question would help a lot if you just like write on paper like what happens in each step. Like create like a whole, like create like a, I don't know, just like a list on your paper, like with commas, like just write French down and then write history down, right? And then when you set something new, just cross out history and put like English below it. So then you can identify that this is the first one, now this one is the second one. And then add art and now remove something just like crossing it out again. So then you'll understand that art will now be the second one. And then you'll discover why there's an error here. Yeah. So I guess we're running out of time, but I kind of like wanted to, I had like 2 free response exercises for this lesson as well. The first one is pretty easy. It's like basically like what you do for like a bank account. Like you create a class called person, give it some name and attributes, name and age attributes, and create a constructor that initializes both values. And then I want you guys, this is the harder part, Implement a method matches that returns true if the values contained in the calling object's name and age fields match the values contained in the past object's name and age fields. Yeah, so this might be a bit complicated to understand. I guess in the next, or I can just create like a recording for this one and I can send it to you guys. But yeah, and the second one deals with the 2D array. So we I don't think we didn't have a question on 2D arrays, but now we have one in the free response section. So this one basically just wants you to write a method that modifies a 2D array, so that like the even rows should be exactly the same as the array passed in, and the odd rows should be replaced by the contents of the row above. And this is how you should start the method. Like, this is the declaration of the method, and you're gonna, like, all the other code is gonna go inside here. Yeah. Yeah, so I hope everyone can at least try. This one, I think everyone should try and do this. Like, this is what I've been trying to like get everyone to like understand for like this whole entire course. Like, just this. And you guys should all try to implement this one and try the second question. Yeah, for homework, guys. For homework, obviously. I guess. Does anyone have any questions? No? Or, yeah. Nope, okay. Yeah, it's 7:04. Yeah, I guess this is a pretty good lesson. Got some decent participation today, so yeah, have a good night, everybody. See you in the next lesson. Yeah.